was over, but it's not.
Hi Sally, it's lovely to see you today. We always have such nice chats when we're together. We always manage to have a laugh or two about what's happening in our lives or in the world.
That's true.
But today we're going to talk a little bit about the HBDI that you are going to run with me on the life-changing website from your company Mind Management. So can you just start by telling me a little bit more about the HBDI profile and how it can help people in their search for a new direction or a new career?
Well, the HBDI is a very simple profiling tool, and I think that's the secret of its success. It's very easy to understand. Essentially what it does is it asks people 120 questions, and that can be done online, which is how I think you're going to use it.
Yes.
And then the results of these questions are put together and show a graphical printout of people's preferred thinking style.
Okay.
We are looking mostly at the left brain, right brain split, and so we would hope to find whether people are more left-brained or more right-brained. And I expect you would like me to emphasise a little bit the difference between these two thinking styles.
Yeah, that's certainly something, yes, you can do that, because I think it's going to be helpful to people when they're looking at their own particular skill sets, which they have to put together when preparing their CV or preparing to go for an interview or even choosing the next stage in their career. So yeah, a little bit about the difference between left and right brain thinkers would be useful.
Well, left brain thinking is much more structured thinking, whereas right brain thinking is sort of off the wall, more abstract, well, less structured, I suppose. So the sort of skill sets that a left brain preference would give you would be analysis, attention to detail, being focused, maybe technical, maybe mathematical, the sort of anything that encompasses a sort of structured type of thinking. Then you've got, by contrast, you've got the right brain, and that would be people with that sort of preference would be more likely to be very creative, probably make decisions more based on intuition than a lot of research. They would be experimental. And so when it comes to looking for a job, it's quite important that the role of the job requires you to think in a way that you like thinking, because if you're always forced to be thinking in a way that isn't your preference, that you don't really like, then you get very stressed, and actually you may not be as good at doing tasks that involve something you don't like doing as something you do like doing.
So if you were an ideas person or an innovative person, then you wouldn't necessarily want a job, would you, that was going to require you to pay a lot of attention to detail?
No, exactly.
And then if you're a very detailed or left-brained thinker, then I could imagine that when it comes to them producing their CV, they're going to put down every single detail that they can think about.
Yes. There might be overkill on detail on a CV if somebody has that sort of profile. Yeah.
And also, I think when you start to establish whether you're a right or left brain thinker, I know in terms of doing mine, what it did highlight for me is how I could actually learn a new skill or build a strength that I didn't have. For example, when I was putting this whole program together, of course, it needs to be structured, and I needed to make a plan of how I was going to do this. And just thinking about it, it made my stomach ache. I think, oh, it's not me. I don't do detail. I don't do planning. And I noticed how anxious I got when coming away from the ideas into actually putting a plan down on paper was quite nerve-wracking. And I expect you find that, don't you, with people when
Absolutely, but very often people are very good at things that they don't like doing, but they have to make an extra special effort. And so, speaking for myself, I really can't bear anything to do with bookkeeping and numbers and finances. But knowing this, I do put the odd half day aside to just get down and jolly well do it and make a big effort. And I find that by by forcing oneself to do something one doesn't like occasionally and then rewarding yourself for having done it. It's useful to know. It's useful to be able to cope with yourself in that way, and limit the amount you have to do it, perhaps as much as possible, to cut down on stress.
So, with the HBDI, how do you think it differs to? I mean, because there's lots of different, profiling systems. How do you think it differs? What's its?
Well, I think it's the combination of the simplicity with the power of the insights it gives you. Also, the way it's fed back is very colourful, it's very easy to remember, and it's very easy to explain your profile to someone else who's never met it before. It sort of jumps out at you what it's trying to tell you. And actually with somebody who has done this online, if they are going for an interview, for a job, it could be quite useful to just produce the profile and say, look, my thinking style would seem to be right for the sort of content of the job that I'm coming to see you about.
Well, actually, that's a very useful piece of information for people, because I was talking a little bit earlier with Ruth about interviews and actually going and being prepared. So if you can go and you've done your own personal research, you understand yourself, you know what you're offering, then it makes you much more of an employable, choice, doesn't it, than just being random. Actually, it could also help in families, really, couldn't it?
Oh, definitely.
With the, save those rows over who's going to do what.
You would be surprised how many times I go into a company, do a team of people, and then I get a number of phone calls the next day from people who say, do you think we could have an extra one for my wife, husband, partner, friend?
Yeah, let's just slip one in there. Mother-in-law, yes, everybody. But thank you very much for
It's a pleasure. I really hope it helps people.
HBDI.
I'd like to feel that it will.
And because as I say, I've done it myself. It's always valuable.
Good.
And it gives you a greater tool to go prepared into a much more competitive job market.
Absolutely what we hope.
Yeah.
I thought it was over, but it's not.